Hello everyone. How are you? Hello cadet. Hello my junior engineer. You meet me again. Meet me, Lilin Tua. Our meeting today is to continue the description that I have conveyed in part 2 about heater several days ago. As a continuation of the heater, which is one type of heat exchanger today, I will convey information on heat exchanger part 3 about evaporator. Well, as usual, before I start explaining about the evaporator, I will try to remember briefly about the heat exchanger related to evaporator. Yes, it's exchanger. From this diagram that we have understood at the meeting of part 1 and part 2, the heat exchanger which is placed where the heat exchange process occurs is categorized into two types. Those that provided heat or to give heat, and those that take heat. Each category produces a sensible heat and latent heat exchange process. And this process is called for sensible heat, for example, heating and cooling, and for latent heat transfer is evaporation and condensation. So each categories produce sensible and latent heat exchange process, turns give rise to the type of a heat exchanger such as heater, evaporator, cooler, and condenser. As a place where latent heat exchange occurs, we can find evaporator in installations of making freshwater from seawater distillation, as called freshwater distiller. So the evaporator, we know evaporator is the device where the evaporation process occurs, which is a process of changing the medium from the liquid or to gas or to vapor form. A place, as I told before, we can find evaporator in, according this definition, we can find evaporator in system of making freshwater from sea water called as a freshwater generator. And we also find evaporator in the system generations in the steam generation system in the steam boiler. And the last, on board ship, we also can find evaporator in a refrigeration system installation. Well, the following is the diagram of the manufacture of the freshwater distiller, where the plate type evaporator is located in addition to the other main component of condenser. So here the compact heat exchanger or compact distiller and contain the evaporator and condenser. Both the evaporator and also the condenser is plate type. Yeah. Then the following feature is a diagram of the steam engine installation. Steam engine installation, where the steam boiler is the main device to produce steam power. Here in this diagram, you can see two kind of boiler, two kind of steam boiler. Main steam boiler or harbor boiler or oil-fired boiler, and the other is exhaust gas boiler. In this picture, you can see, in this picture, you can see in the exhaust gas boiler, you can find or you can see three kind of coil. Coil A, coil B, and coil C. Coil B is an evaporator. Coil B is evaporator coil that function to evaporate hot water produced by coil A, economizer. Coil A is economizer that is produced increasing the feeding water become higher temperature, and the hot water through the coil B evaporator to make or to change the form of physical from water to vapor or to steam. Because the steam produced by coil B, the evaporator, is still in form of saturated steam, which cannot be used for purpose of driving the turbine generator, the result need to be heated further in the superheater, coil C, to produce superheated steam or dry steam, so that the superheated steam can use for driving the turbine generator. Finally, we can find the evaporator in the refrigeration system on board ship. Refrigeration system for is either for accommodation or for yes, here you can see the position of evaporator. All the detail, we will provide complete explanation in the spirit program, the tale of refrigerant installation. Now I just want to show you location, type of the evaporator, uh, either in freshwater generator, in boiler system, as well as at refrigeration system. Now it's time I will explain evaporator contained in the system for making fresh water from seawater on board. Yeah, we now starting explanation of evaporator in a system of making fresh water from seawater, which is called freshwater generator. In terms of method or process of making freshwater generator can be categorized into two types, namely by distillation and by osmosis. Yeah? Freshwater generator can be categorized into two types, namely by distillation and the second by osmosis. Distillation we can divide it two into the two type: high pressure freshwater distiller and low pressure freshwater distiller. Because in the osmosis method we don't find the evaporation process, so it doesn't require an evaporator component. So I only explain about the method of making freshwater by distillation, in which there is an evaporator. As we know that evaporation temperature is very dependent on the surface pressure of the liquid to be evaporated, where the higher the surface pressure of the liquid, the higher the temperature required for making evaporation process. And conversely, the lower surface pressure, the lower temperature required for evaporation. Therefore, therefore, the freshwater distiller can divide it into two types, namely high pressure freshwater distiller and low pressure freshwater distiller. Yeah. From that high pressure distiller, we can show to you about the image, which an animation of a high pressure freshwater distiller system. You can see the evaporator. From the high pressure freshwater distiller animation image, you can see location and type of evaporator. Here we can see the sea pump filling the water to the evaporator, and the level we can see from the side glass. And then the vaporizing media, because it is the high pressure system method above the 1 atmosphere or 1 bar. So the vaporizing method for vaporizing uh, media must have a temperature higher than 100 degrees Celsius. Usually, the evaporator use a type of bare coil tubes where the steam is flow inside of the pipe as the vaporizing medium obtained from steam boiler. Uh, for the whole system, yeah, for the whole system, from the steam produced by the evaporator flow to condenser that cooled by seawater, and after flow and its heat is absorbed or takes by seawater, so the vapor change the form, become a liquid that called condensate. By the condensate pump, this condensate water flow to freshwater tank. And then to keep the percentage of salt is still same, constant, so install it the print pump for circulations the seawater in the evaporator. Yeah, I will explain in detail on a spirit program for this high pressure freshwater distiller. Next, I want to show you the animation of low pressure freshwater distiller, namely the distillation process at pressure below 1 atmosphere or at vacuum pressure. Low pressure freshwater generator. I will to show you that is the main engine, mid cooling, main engine jacket needs cooling system. So we can find the main freshwater cooler that the cooling media is seawater. Seawater cooling, the freshwater cooling pump, cooling water to check cylinder jacket. The temperature outside from cylinder jacket, it is around 70 degrees Celsius, and it is enough for becoming as the vaporizing medium. With evaporation at vacuum pressure at a vacuum of around 98 to 99%, for evaporation only requires the temperature of the evaporating media around 50 till 55 degrees Celsius. So far. So for the low pressure freshwater type like this, the vaporizing media is enough to use freshwater cooling the main engine cooling jacket, which has a temperature around 70 degrees Celsius. Yes, you can show that this is the position of freshwater generator that contain evaporator and condenser. We prepare for those freshwater distiller because that is low pressure type. So as a consequence for this freshwater type, must install a vacuum pump or air ejector. That is air ejector operated by the high pressure through air ejector to suck the air from the system. We can know the value of vacuum of the compact housing of freshwater generator. It is about 98 to 99%. As far high pressure freshwater distiller, I also will explain this its detail at the spirit program. Yeah, not now. I just want to see to you where evaporator is located in this system. Yeah, we can see the filling process of seawater to evaporator, and after vacuum by air ejector, and also make circulation for bin system. So the evaporator ready for make evaporation process by using the freshwater cooling from main engine cylinder jacket. Yeah, yeah. And after evaporation, the steam or the vapor go to condenser and become condensate because it is compact, not like the high pressure freshwater distiller is spirit between the evaporator and condenser. So the result of the freshwater is called condensate water. But here, because condenser and evaporator located in the same place, so the result of water is called distilled water. But it is the same, just only uh, other name. It is the same between condensate water and distilled water. So the pump is also called as the distilled water, distilled pump. Okay, and the other is the same. Okay, and then the following picture is the other image of the freshwater low pressure freshwater distiller, but only uh, another type, but the operation is the same. The following is the picture of a low pressure freshwater system with a plate type evaporator, where the way it works is the same, what we have presented earlier. When the ship is running and the low pressure freshwater is operated, the function of evaporator can be replaced the function of the main engine's freshwater cooler, so that at that time the main freshwater cooler is turned off. The following picture is picture of freshwater distiller that can be used for both high pressure system and low pressure system. So that when at the port or in harbor, it can be operated with the high as the high with the high as the high pressure method. The steam of boiler as the vaporizing medium. And the following picture is a low pressure freshwater distiller installation, but using a flash evaporator type. You can find where is the evaporator. Flash evaporator is the evaporator that carries out the evaporation of seawater not through the boiling state. Usually for evaporation process must be through the process heating and then boiling and then evaporating. But for the flash evaporator type, the, because of the high vacuum and also the relative high temperature of seawater, then when seawater, warm seawater, warm seawater entering to the room, entering to the space, immediately turn into steam without through the boiling process. And while seawater that does not have time to evaporate is accommodated in the brain beds. Yeah. Okay. Cadet that I love, the supporting level and the operational level that I am proud of all that I respect. This my presentation for part 3 about the evaporator. I have finished. And we will meet in part 4. It's still about the evaporator. Greeting from Old Candle. Greeting from Lilin Tua. Success always.